This is 9.4, Increase in Greenhouse Gases. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the threats to human health and the environment posed by an increase in the greenhouse gases. To accomplish this goal, we will describe the cause and effect of sea level rise and describe the cause and effect of shifting ranges for disease vectors. So let's start with sea level rise. So this is a map of the Connecticut shoreline, which has experienced 6-inch increase in the amount of water at the shoreline since the 1960s. This is due to two reasons. First, thermal expansion. So as water molecules increase in heat, they move apart. So if they're like this, then as they warm up, they're going to spread out a little bit. And this spreading out all over the ocean at the same time is going to lead to sea level rise. Even if they're just moving apart slightly, it's happening on a large scale. Then we also have the more famous one, which is the melting polar and glacier ice. So these increasing greenhouse gases are leading to a warmer climate, and therefore they cause the melting of the ice sheets at the poles and the glaciers. This just simply puts more water into the ocean, and it's going to cause sea level rise. So some of our big contributors, thermal expansion, added water, these things together are causing a significant amount of sea level rise over time. So what does this mean for those of us who live near the coast? So we get the flooding of coastal ecosystems. Here's what Venice is doing to try to combat sea level rise. We can see a loss of species that depend on the Arctic and tundra ecosystems, so penguins, polar bears. There's a loss of that freeze and thaw cycle that glaciers go through. I should say deprives the ecosystem of their water source. So they need that freeze-thaw cycle in order to access the ice and the water they need to support their ecosystem. For humans, we see an increase in the flood frequency. So this leads to higher insurance and higher repair costs, possible loss of property. Here's a seawall as a possible combatant against sea level rise. We get saltwater intrusion. Remember we talked about this in watersheds. Saltwater intrusion is saltwater pushing into the groundwater, contaminates your wells, so it's making less usable, drinkable, clean, fresh water. And then it also gives us climate refugees. These are people who are forced to move to a new location because of climate change and its impact on their habitat. Their homes. They're people, not animals. The problem is, Connecticut, it took 60 years to get 6-inch rise in water. We're going to see this in the next 15 years, an additional 6-inch rise in water. Now let's look at disease vectors. Disease vectors are insects which transmit disease to people. Ticks are one. Mosquitoes are probably very familiar with. So warmer temperatures allow insects that transmit disease to spread to parts of the world that were previously too cold. So if we compare the range, particularly for us in 2019 versus what we see in 2080, we have many more months per year when disease transmission is possible by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. So as they expand their range towards the poles, so they're able to move up here and move down here, new human populations are at risk. So people who've not previously had to deal with the effects of maybe malaria, now they're going to be exposed. So to summarize this quick part, global climate change caused by the excess of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere can lead to a variety of environmental problems. So we saw rising sea levels from melting ice sheets and ocean expansion, and disease vectors spreading from tropics towards the poles. These can lead to changes in population dynamics and population movements in response.